Hello, my name is Allison Fink, and today I want to talk about Lystra and how it affects Christians who are trying to decide whether or not they should obey the law or live under grace. So Lystra is a town that is located in modern-day Turkey, and right now not very many people live there, but at that time of Jesus and Paul, it was a Roman colony that was the center of education and enlightenment. So these people definitely were intelligent, they were educated, they were not people who didn't understand basic things. They were very intelligent. So their reaction to Paul and Barnabas saying that they were gods visiting in disguise was not out of ignorance. This was actually based on a local legend where Hermes and Zeus came and visited and found the area to be inhospitable and so chose to completely destroy everyone who lived there. So this can be recognized by an inscription and altar, which is outside of the town, which was dedicated to Zeus and Hermes. So that would show that this town was very preoccupied with the idea that the gods would come among them and visit them, and so they reacted to seeing a miracle, thinking that this was Zeus and Hermes coming to test them yet once more. However, this isn't just significant culturally. This area is significant to Christianity as well. Roman hubs were ideal for spreading the gospel. There was a lot of motion to and from different places here, and a lot of people would come through these areas because of the Roman army. And so being able to have a Christian root in this area would allow Christianity to spread even further and even quicker. Additionally, this particular town housed a special temple to Zeus, as well as some temples to other gods. So this was just a strategic invasion on Jesus' part. Jesus was intentionally invading the territory of the pagan gods and showing that he was the one who was the true God. Now, in Acts 10 through 15, and particularly towards the end in 15, two main parties emerge about the issue of what Gentile believers should do. So there are circumcised believers who believe in the Mosaic law and circumcision specifically. And so most of their arguments were that once you became a Christian, you still needed to obey the Mosaic law. And then there was the apostles like Peter and particularly Paul, who wanted to reach the Gentiles and at the same time realized that they did not necessarily have the same requirements to live under the law now that Jesus had given us grace. And so there was this tension between grace and the law and how that impacted our Christian beliefs. So this is the summary of each party's particular point of view. So circumcised believers believed that when you became a new believer, you should become circumcised if you were a man, and you should obey the Mosaic law just as if you were a Jew. And they believed that obeying this law would bring salvation. So they believed in Jesus, but they also strongly believed in the law and believed that they should be circumcised and have certain dietary restrictions, etc. Now, the apostles believed in the legitimacy of the Jewish beliefs because they came from a Jewish background, but they also saw that God has a heart for Gentiles, and they did not believe, especially James said this, that it shouldn't be unnecessarily difficult for the Gentiles to turn to God. And so these extra rules could be something that would turn them away from God, and the apostles wanted to make sure that they were sensitive to the fact that God had not given these rules to the Gentiles, but only gave them to the Jews. So the solution that everyone came up with in Acts 15 was writing a letter to essentially tell the highlights of which laws are the most important for the Gentiles to follow. And they chose some interesting ones. First of all, they wanted the believers to abstain from certain foods that were sacrificed to idols or that had been strangled or had blood in it, so that was basically ingesting the life of the animal. And additionally, they wanted the believers to abstain from sexual immorality. So they had taken some of the really big issues from the law and besides circumcision and chose to be able to have the Gentiles do those specific things rather than following all of the commandments in Leviticus. There were many things at stake, but essentially it boils down to the theology for the future church. Whether we are saved by grace or by legalism, whether our actions are what make us just, or whether it is God's actions alone. This would also influence what kind of gospel would be preached throughout the world. So this was a very pivotal decision for the apostles to make. And they made this decision because they wanted to show sensitivity to both the Jews and the Gentiles. So the Jews were in a position where they believed in Jesus, but they heard the Torah read every single week. And so they heard these rules being read over them. And that created this feeling of guilt or this feeling of offense towards people who were not following those rules and creating tensions. And then the Gentiles became upset because they realized that this was not necessarily the Christianity they had subscribed to, and they were getting pressure from the Jewish Christians and becoming confused. And so these apostles were trying to bring unity back to the church by striking that balance and allowing the Jewish and the Gentile believers to agree on the main and most important things. So in conclusion, Lystra was a strategic place for Jesus to battle the Gentile gods and to come out victorious. However, when more people started to join from different backgrounds and faiths, issues would arise regarding which Mosaic laws to follow. Then the apostles boiled down the law to show us what was the basics, what was the most important things they wanted us to follow, and to minimize the amount of offense caused on both sides, and to bring unity between the Jewish Christians and the Gentile Christians. And this set a pattern for the future church to help us believe in grace rather than just the law. Thank you.